Okay.
because I think book writing is about as big a challenge as you can
Yeah,
possibly take on. However, there are all sorts of benefits to doing it. So,
sure.
I've got a bunch of slides which I'm going to share,
Okay.
and just bear with me. Get that to move. Apologies for the noise. We have builders cutting tiles,
All right. Okay.
which is just sheer joy.
As in roof tiles or bathroom tiles?
Bathroom tiles,
Bathroom tiles. Right.
but each tile is the size of a computer screen, and they're
Right.
particularly hard,
Right.
and it's just good on and on. But there we go. So can you see that screen?
Yeah. See that fine, Phil? Yeah, that's great.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's just get that one going, and let's just make that smaller. Fantastic. So yeah, book writing. I threw this one in because I know there's quite a few financial advisors are thinking about doing this. Whenever I've kind of spoken to people or run the odd or the occasional poll, it's kind of one of those things that seems to come up from time to time. And some people have had an idea in the back of their head for years and years, but not quite sure how to get started. And others just know it's something that they kind of need to do, you know. If you look at financial advisors in the United States, book writing is kind of par for the course, to be really quite honest. And there's a variety of reasons for that. So we'll explore that. Just a bit of background. I've got 20 books to my name, something like that. But these are the main ones here. And this kind of came about. My first book, Successful Seminar Selling, came out in 2003. I'll explain how that was in a minute or two. So I've always had that one, but up until about a year ago, a year and a half, something like that, I was doing the blogging thing and putting out content and, you know, doing what you're supposed to do. And I began to think, yeah, it drives traffic to your website and all that good stuff as well. And it makes you more connections, all very useful. But I began to think that the more content I put out, the more that potentially cheapens its value. And it really just adds to the noise, the general noise that's out there on social media. So I suddenly thought, well, I'm going to take a different tack on this one, and I'm going to start selling my content. And I thought the most obvious way to sell it is in the form of a book. Now, we're going to cover off the pros and cons of going the traditional published route and the self-published route as well. My first two books, funny enough, were traditional published routes, but everything since then I've self-published, and we'll kind of go into why that is in a minute. So as far as this session is concerned, is to set the scene, just give some examples of other advisors that have written books, the benefits to advisors, and when you look at the benefits list, you'll be forgiven for thinking, well, why doesn't everybody do this? You know, it's just an absolute no-brainer. And then to start moving us forward to actually think about doing some homework. So the question is, will you have written a book in 21 days? Answer, no. But what you will have been able to do by the end of the 21 days is to actually, if not have started, be in a position to start and know exactly what to do in order to get it done. And I think for most people, the idea of starting a blog, yeah, I reckon I could do that. Starting a podcast, yeah, I reckon I could do that. Set up my first seminar or webinar, yeah, I reckon I could do that. But writing a book, my goodness, that's a hell of a topic. Interesting one though. There are people who are professional book writers, and by that I don't mean people like J.K. Rowling and people like that. I mean people who what they do is they use software to scan the internet for topics that are starting to trend in terms of blogs and books and online conversations, questions. So, for example, right now, one of those topics would probably be how to work from home. how to manage your work-life balance, all these kind of things, adapting to a new way of working. These are sort of typically trending topics, but these professional writers, they go at a whole different level. They use some quite sophisticated software. And I was talking to one of these people a couple of months back, a lady in the States, and I said to her, so how many books have you written to date? And she said 24,600. I thought, wow, that is another level altogether. She says, what you have to get your head round is what the definition of a book is these days, which we'll come on to in a minute. But what she does, she finds a topic that people are really interested in online. Then she goes to one of a number of websites and hires a ghostwriter to write the book for her. That book can be anything from 20 pages to 200, 300, 400 pages, but someone else writes it to her brief. And then she publishes it under her name. And, you know, her income that comes in from this is just astonishing every single month. So that's what I mean by a professional book writer. So a book can be all sorts of different things to different people. So to make this happen, we've got to be fairly open-minded to new ways of doing things, and kind of getting into our head that, yeah, maybe we can do this if we follow a process. As you probably know, Lee, I'm a great advocate of putting on seminars, and I can convince any IFA that they should be putting on a seminar. But when the chips are down, what most tend to say to me are, yeah, but what if we don't get bums on seats? What if I've paid for the hotel and the lunch and no one turns up? That's just a process. Follow the process, the people turn up. Follow the presentation process, they convert into clients. So these things are a process. And book writing need not be as hard as it might sound, because there are a variety of different processes that we can actually follow. So the inspiration for this one, and the first version of this book, was not aimed at financial advisors. I was a broker consultant for Zurich Life in the city. And because I've worked in the City of London, I was one of 3 or 4 in our team who never used their company cars. So we walked to see IFAs. And we did our 20 meetings a week with IFAs, which was lovely in the spring and the summer, but in the winter it was pretty horrific. Now, one thing that was really very noticeable was that the more meetings with IFAs that I had promoting the delights of Zurich Life's products, the more business came in from financial advisors. And it was very noticeable in the winter, because we were too namby-pamby to go out in the cold and the wet. The number of meetings we used to have with financial advisors dropped like a stone, and so the amount of business coming in dropped like a stone. So I thought, I wonder if there's a better way of doing this. Maybe instead of me going to see the IFAs each week, why don't I get them to come and see me? We'd got quite a nice head office in Fenchurch Street. The chief executive was there. There were a couple of underwriters there. There was a fund manager and a couple of actuaries. So people who actually knew what they were talking about were in the building. And I thought, well, why don't I put on some breakfast seminars? And I remember the first one I did was a seminar, little breakfast seminar on how IFAs can present PHI and critical illness policy proposals in the best possible light so that they go through underwriting with a minimum of fuss. So I did the invites, I did the meet and greets, took the coats. I quickly realized the power of the bacon roll to get people in the room. And then I handed it over to the chief underwriter and he did his party piece for the next hour. And I kind of did various permutations on this particular theme. And it soon became apparent that I was going from seeing around 20 IFAs a week to quite often seeing 20 IFAs a day. Instead of doing one-to-one, I would do one-to-many, and I'd get them to come and see me. And they would come and see me because I wasn't going to do the presentation. Somebody who actually was an expert was going to do the presentation, and that's always an appealing thing. Now, when I was eventually made redundant a few years later, I was quite determined that I wanted to write a book because I've kind of started hanging around with the speaking crowd. and they'd all written books. And I thought, right, well, I've got to write a book. And I thought, well, what could I write a book on? And I realized I knew how to present seminars and workshops through simple trial and error. I thought, well, I can do a book on that. And I did some research and uncovered some really quite surprising things. Anyway, this book came out 2004. It was a marketing bestseller. And in recent years, I've kind of updated it, but I've also done this new version specifically for financial advisors as well. So ideas for books can come from literally anywhere. Now, when it comes to financial advisors, most are going to be thinking about a book that is probably a non-fiction thing, something like that. If you want to do a work of fiction, that's absolutely fine. But out of the sort of 20 or so IFAs and financial planners that I've met, and not one single one of them's done a fiction-based book. They've all been kind of either based around some aspect of their expertise, or they've been slightly autobiographical in some way, shape or form. So the ideas can come from absolutely everywhere. And as part of this little program, we're going to help you to come up with the ideas that you'll find that you can run with. Now, it's worth setting some expectations around book writing, because it is really difficult. And if you haven't got a plan and you haven't got a process, that first time that you open up a blank Word document or a sheet of paper, you might be able to knock out the first paragraph, and then you'll rewrite it about 10 times, and then you'll tear it up altogether, and you'll think, no, I don't think I can do this. But once you kind of get into it, you really start getting excited about it, because you actually see something getting on paper. You will want to give up. You will find a sense of overwhelm as well about it. You will get conflicting advice about how to write a book, what's the right way to do it and the wrong way. All you could do is go onto YouTube right now and type in how to write a book, and you will find thousands upon thousands of videos from authors giving you their few pence worth. It does take time. You can't do this unless you put time aside. Having said that, I don't know if you know Grant Cardone, the real estate guy over in the United States. He's kind of like Tony Robbins does real estate, really loud, really brash, very, very big American, private jets, all the rest of it. And he wrote a global best-selling book on sales in 2 hours. He just literally locked himself into a room, spoke into a dictaphone, and then transcribed the whole thing and literally self-published it there and then, warts and all. Global best-selling book on sales, literally written in a couple of hours. Has earned him an absolute fortune, got him his own TV show, multiple other book deals. And he said it still amuses him that he gets emails from people all around the world saying, Grant, I'm reading your book, and it's just riddled with typos and spelling mistakes and all the rest of it. He says, do I look like I care? This was a global best-selling book. Sure, I can tidy it up in the future. But the fact is, books can be written really quickly and they can go to the top of the list. But we want something of quality, so that will take a little bit of time. But there's a way to divide your time up. It will need some effort. It will need some habit changing, and it will need some commitment. You will inevitably want perfection first time round, which just won't happen. But the day that you get your first copies from your publisher or from Amazon, they arrive in a box, are literally the best day of your life. It's absolutely superb when that happens. So we've got to have a go at it. We'll probably mess it up a bit, however good we think it is. And I love this little cartoon here about making change, trying new skills, but when we do, it doesn't quite work out first time. So one thing that has come out of this with other IFAs that I've worked with is they've all said this: just the process of writing a book really does clarify in their mind what you actually do in your business, where your passion lies, where your skills sit. And most of them have found it quite a sort of cathartic exercise. You know what you do in your business. You get up, you do your work, you enjoy meeting your clients, you relish in seeing the light when it comes to their financial futures and so on and so forth. But writing a book based around some aspect of your expertise quite naturally tends to focus the mind on what you're good at and what you care about, what you're passionate about. And literally everybody has said it really has helped to clarify what they do as a business. And they realize that the books that they're creating or have created become very much an asset of their business. Just like I was saying in the LinkedIn training the other day, LinkedIn done properly is not just another marketing tool. It actually becomes an asset of your business. And when something becomes an asset of your business, it really then becomes very, very important to you. And it's something that you really relish and use and value. Your book will not be perfect quite often. And the great thing about self-publishing is that, you know, you could, in theory, come up with 10 pages this afternoon, and you could have it on Amazon by tomorrow morning. And whilst there is a temptation to have it absolutely perfect before you press the publish button, quite often the best way to do it is to actually let the marketplace decide if it's any good at all. And that's what I quite deliberately did with this book that I've written. This is 40 years worth of working with IFAs in all those meetings, in all those seminars, looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly of financial advisor marketing. But I quite deliberately didn't do a big launch into the IFA community. I just put it live and gradually just started promoting it just to get feedback from people, whether they thought it was rubbish. And the great thing about self-publishing is you can keep tweaking it based on feedback that you get. So what's the point of all this? What are the main benefits? Well, surprise, surprise, the most cost-effective marketing strategies for financial advisors turn out to be marketing where you include education. So like seminars, like webinars, like a podcast, all of those kind of things are educational based. And they are ridiculously cost effective, but also extremely effective. When it's great in our Facebook group, we're starting to get quite a lot of newer, younger advisors coming through. And I get some quite common questions. And one of them is, Phil, I'm just starting my business. I'm looking at my marketing. What would you recommend as the way forward to start marketing and promoting my business? And I will always say seminars. Seminars have proven to be, over the years, the single most effective form of marketing for financial advisors, wherever they are in the world. And most of the most successful financial advisors around the world use seminars and client events as part of their proposition, both to attract new clients and also to add value to existing clients, to also build visibility in the local community, and also to build relationships with professional connections and introducers as well. So seminars are right at the top of the list. But when you really break it down, a seminar is an educational piece. That's why people go to seminars, because one of the reasons they go is because they know they're going to be educated on a particular topic. They don't particularly want to go along and be sold to, and that's the worst type of seminar. When I was doing my research for my book on seminar selling, I used to go to lots of timeshare presentations. Used to deliberately put myself through that just to watch how they promoted the thing, but also what was the presentation process that they went through. And the timeshare approach was always presentation with value, then a pretty hard sell based on the back of it. And the hard sell actually was based around actually quite sound economics. The sales process was usually pretty accurate. The benefits of buying timeshare were all pretty accurate, but it got a fairly sort of bad rap, shall we say, in and around the world as quite a hard sell. So I would always say seminars. Now, we can't do seminars right now. We can do webinars, and I'm doing a session on that this week as well. So the next obvious way is to look at books, and books are kind of the obvious way forward. If you've ever written a blog, ever written an article, then you can write a book. No question about that at all. Now, you'll get a copy of the slides and you'll get a copy of the video, but it's just worth quickly whipping through this list as to the main benefits of writing a book. So you've got something that you can sell or give away. And I would always recommend to financial advisors, you do both. It's the best business card that you will ever give away. Writing a book differentiates you like nothing else, and I go on ad nauseum about the importance of differentiation. Whilst most IFAs and financial planners are not actually in competition with each other, there is that differentiation piece that is quite important as well. If you've written an article, it suggests you know what you're talking about. If you've written a book, it suggests you're an expert, if not the expert. It'll add value to your clients. It makes you even more referable, and that's a really key thing for financial advisors. You know, if you do a great job with a particular client, they will tell their friends, and they said, oh, and he's written a book as well, you know, which is awesome. So it enhances your credibility. It will convert more clients, that should say, into prospects. More clients, that makes no sense at all. You could theoretically increase your fees as well, simply because you've got a book. It gives you a physical product. Hardly any financial advisors have got physical products that people can purchase or take off them. The first time I ever came across a financial advisor with a physical product was when I was doing my search into IFAs that did seminars. I came across one particular IFA, a firm called Taylor & Taylor, who gave away and also sold a CD of their seminar. So their first ever seminar, they filmed it, and then all the future seminars, they had boxes of them at the back and they either sold them or they gave away. And it was the first time I ever came across a financial advisor who got something physical that people could buy or that they could take away. Obviously, it will replace your business card. It will be the best business card you'll ever have. Then what also happens, it opens unexpected doors just by magic. Speaking, consulting, coaching business, just because you've written a book, people will want to hire you to do that. And this is another of my little hobby horses, that financial advisors, a trick they're missing is that all this expertise that is up here could actually be sold to people in all sorts of different formats. If someone's bought your book, there's a very strong likelihood that they'll turn up to your seminar or that they'll want to work with you. It feels good. It increases your confidence and status to have written a book as well. You also find that it improves your general writing skills and other aspects of your life and your business. It expands your marketing reach. Just having a book out there replicates you and your expertise out there in a variety of different places. In terms of local PR, it's almost difficult to beat. Opens an unexpected door, and yes, it creates new income streams as well. So looking at that list, you think, well, so why doesn't everybody write a book? And the simple reason why everybody doesn't write a book is because the perception is it's quite a hard thing to do. And here's a little thing straight off the bat. When you get your books, every time you meet a new client, give them 2 copies. One for them and one for them to give to their friends or their relatives as well. So straight away, the very first time you meet someone, you're turning that into a fantastic referral opportunity as well. Just give it to them as a gift. And giving, the first time you meet a prospect, you give them a couple of copies of your book. Straight away they're on your side. No question about that at all. A book is also a really powerful tool on the value ladder, which I've been talking about as well. And just quickly to repeat that for those people who've not heard me talk about this, the value ladder is the process through which we build relationships and trust with our prospects. So, for example, dentists increasingly have a value ladder that looks like this. A dentist actually wants you to pay an ongoing care plan. They actually want you to pay for the expensive cosmetic stuff. So to get you in their loop, in their world, in their building, they'll give away teeth cleaning for free, teeth whitening for free, just to get you in so you can experience it, get a testimonial, and it makes you much more likely that the patient will want to go further up the ladder. Same goes with chiropractors. free consultation, maybe free massage. What they actually want you to do is to go on their long weekend wellness retreat, which costs thousands and thousands, or to pay for an ongoing care plan. But to get you into that frame of mind, they give you the free stuff so that it becomes much more likely that you eventually go the distance. Same goes for a gym. The value ladder for a gym typically starts on the 1st of January every year. They get you in the building, free trial. What they actually want you to do is to pay for the ongoing plan and private coaching and all that good stuff as well. Now, this is my value ladder for financial advisors. Typically, if I meet a financial advisor anywhere, could be at a conference, an industry event, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, I take them through this particular process. Where I want to take them eventually is they come and join me on my long weekend deep dive marketing retreat, where we go to a really fancy hotel in the country or overseas. We get some expert speakers in, we have some celebrity chefs, all that kind of stuff. That's really expensive, but no one's going to remotely go near that until they've experienced some of the other stuff. So I always point people to my Facebook group or one of my online groups where I know there's a lot of value. Free ebooks, free book, or maybe they buy the book. My scorecard, which we're going to talk about on the final session, is something else that's proving incredibly valuable. Then we get into webinars. Sometimes they're free, sometimes they're chargeable. Live workshops, they're always chargeable. Maybe the book writing program, maybe coaching. So we're gradually going up that value ladder. But people these days, they need to be able to trust you and get a sense of your credibility and expertise, and they have to go through that process. What's interesting with financial advisors is most financial advisors do not have a value ladder at all. We're expecting new clients to jump straight to the expensive stuff, the financial planning, the whatever it is that you offer. So any of these things could be on a financial advisor's value ladder. And right at the bottom, a free e-guide, simple as that. You know, if I'm a heart surgeon, for sake of argument, and I'm looking for a financial planner to help me with my retirement income, and I do a Google search or a LinkedIn search, and I find a financial advisor's website that says we specialize in retirement planning for heart surgeons, then that's going to get my attention. What's going to get my attention even more is if I go to that financial advisor's website and right at the top it says, download our free guide for heart surgeons, 20 tips on how to increase your retirement income. There's no way I'm not going to download that. I'm more than happily give my email address in exchange for that free download. You call that a lead magnet by any other name, but that's exactly what it is. It's a piece of value, a piece of expertise, a piece of credibility that I can get for free in exchange for my email address. And that's, most people realize that's a reasonable exchange and fair exchange of value. There's no earthly reason why financial advisors can't do their own weekend or overseas retreats. I know a guy in the United States, he does quarterly wealth symposiums, 3 days in a really classy hotel with himself and some other top financial planners, and he charges $20,000 a ticket for that, and he's got a queue lasting a year to go along to that. So people do buy the expensive stuff, but they've had to experience the other stuff along the way. But for the purpose of this training, we're looking at books, which can be turned into audiobooks, and they can be turned in ebooks as well. An ebook can be as a simple PDF file of your manuscript, or it can be a Kindle version of your manuscript as well. So what financial advisors are kind of getting involved with this? Well, this sort of lead magnet approach. And the interesting thing is most financial planners write a book because they see it as a lead magnet more than anything else. Yes, it's fun to say, yeah, I'm an author. Yes, it's fun to pick up a little bit of royalties every now and again, but fundamentally it's a credibility building tool. Catherine's kind of rising star in the financial planning world, going full on the financial coaching thing. One of her lead magnets is these online challenges that she does. And she also sells courses to people. online. And I think this is a great example of somebody taking the expertise that they've got and turning it into something else that people can buy. Because not everybody with the best will in the world wants to go and see a financial advisor, but they still know that they need the financial advisor's expertise. And if that financial advisor is selling their expertise in other formats, then that might be more appropriate, more relevant to different people. So that's one particular approach. Pete Matthew, Meaningful Money, Jackson's Financial Planning down in Penzance. You know, it all started with his YouTube channel, and he's had a YouTube channel for probably 10 or 11 years now. And that has morphed into one of, if not the top personal finance podcasts, certainly in the UK. He's had millions of downloads, but that has inevitably led to him writing a book. So his YouTube channel is called Meaningful Money. His podcast is the Meaningful Money Podcast. So his book is the Meaningful Money Handbook. Simple as that. There it is. You can check it out on his website. Here's another one a couple of financial advisors have done, 3 Steps to Financial Advisors, an ebook on millennial finance. I think we're only limited by our own imaginations as to how we use our expertise and what products we can create. Jason Butler used to be founder of Bloomsbury Financial Planning in London. And he's written, I know, at least 3 books now. One of which was the Financial Times Wealth Management Guide. I mean, that's a fairly serious piece of work. So he's done at least 3. And the really interesting thing is, once you've done one, then you finally think, well, yeah, what else could I do? And so it goes on. Rebecca Robertson, choosing to focus on women, the feminine approach to financial planning. Dennis Hall of Yellowtail, very much an advocate of lifestyle, life planning. That's his book. I think he's doing another one. George Kinder from the United States. And the ones I've shown you so far are all UK people. George, I always include him because I think George is a kind of role model for quite a lot of financial planners in the UK. The 7 stages of money maturity, that's a serious bit of work as well. And then Lighting the Torch about the Kinder life planning, and a couple more newer ones that he's done recently. Chris Budd, you may know of as well, the Financial Wellbeing book, Efficient Estate Planning. I mean, there's an interesting angle as well. But, you know, look at the Amazon reviews there. Who'd have thought that a book about estate planning and reducing your inheritance tax bill would be picking up 5-star reviews on Amazon? Well, they do. And I remember when Pete Matthew first started doing his podcast, I sort of jokingly said to him, you know, Pete, no one's going to be interested in a podcast on personal finance. And, you know, I'm the first to put my hands up and say, how wrong was I there? So these books provide real value to people. Yes, they'll bring in a little bit of money, but it's what it says about you that really makes the difference. And here's another particular firm, Buckingham Gate. You know, they've really got in the groove here. And they've created all sorts of guides and downloads and so on and so forth. And you can see they're very much around a particular theme there. So Martin Bamford, he was probably, he kind of started it off in the UK. And I think he'd written 3 books before he was even 30. There was a really interesting thing happened when the Money Tree came out first. And it did really well. Published by Pearson's, I think it was, in the original book. And it was fascinating to see the reaction of some of the older financial planners in the industry. Quite a few of them said almost in a jealous kind of way, you know, what does he know about? He's not even 30, and he's writing books about financial planning. And the truth be known, there's nothing in these books here that any other financial planner knows. Martin has no more expertise in these particular subjects than any other financial planner who's done any exams. The fact is, though, he thought, right, I'm going to do this. set down to it, got on with it, and got 3 books to his name. And he still has clients approaching him, said, "Oh, I've got your book a few years ago. I finally decided I ought to come and see you in person." Martin's co-authored one with Justin King, another financial planner as well. And going to the States, there is one particular guy, Nick Murray, who most financial planners kind of view as, you know, these are almost the books to get on financial planning. So, you know, not the snappiest of titles, not the greatest of covers, but in the financial planning community, they are almost legendary tomes now. Carl Richards, not surprisingly, he's got a couple of books there, all based around his skill, based on simplifying financial planning, using his diagrams and drawings that he creates as well. Bill Baccarat, John Dashfield, Abraham Okusanya, all written books as well. So people are doing it, which is absolutely fantastic. And if they can do it, anybody else can do it as well. Will you make any money? Well, even if it's a bestseller, you're not going to become a millionaire. Maybe if someone decides to buy the rights and turn it into a Hollywood movie, maybe. The point about this is much more about the money you make from the clients you are going to attract as a result of this than anything else. So it's a marketing piece, it's a credibility piece. That said, and I'm going to show you a couple of numbers in just a second. The value of the new referrals you get will outstrip direct income from the book. So I'm kind of maintaining, give your book away for free. If you self-publish it on Amazon, you will be able to print them off. You'll be able to print up a copy for a couple of quid, literally a couple of quid. So it's worth buying up 100, 200 copies and then just giving them away to your clients, your professional introducers, friends, relatives, and every single new client that comes in through the door as well. Another way to do it is to give it away for free on your website, but ask people to pay for the shipping. And when they pay for the shipping, that means they have to actually make some financial commitment as well. So they've got to get their credit card and pay all of a $5 just for the shipping as well. But what a number of people do is they give the book, the hard copy book, away for free. But as people reach the checkout, you make them an offer of get the book for free, but pay for the audio book. Get access to the audio version of the book now for 10 or 12 quid. And some people make quite a lot of money out of doing that particular approach. This is just one snapshot of my royalties for one particular month last year across 4 or 5 books. And that's not a huge amount of money by any stretch of the imagination. Some months it's much higher than that. Some months it's much lower than that. But that's better than a poke in the eye every single month if that is coming in. But I make more money from my books from the consultancy work that I get as a result, the speaking work that I get as a result, the one-to-one coaching as a result of that. And sometimes a provider or a large IFA firm will want to buy several hundred copies at a time. So that's quite fun when that happens. So unless you come up with some incredibly new financial theory that no one has come up with before, which is extremely unlikely, yeah, you'll see some money in terms of royalties, but the money you make will come from the clients ultimately. Now, the book industry is huge, and what I really want to do is just kind of simplify it so that it doesn't come across as becoming too big a deal. First question is, do I go down the traditional publisher route or the self-publisher route? Now, neither is right nor wrong. It's worth saying that right from the outset. Both have their benefits, both have their challenges as well. Let's take the traditional route. So my first 2 books, I went down the traditional route. So I've done my research on how to put on seminars. I've written my book and I'm ready to go. And I was going to tout it round all the different publishing houses, particularly the ones that specialised in business books. And just by pure coincidence, one particular evening, I was going to a meeting of the Professional Speaking Association, and I hadn't really looked to see who the speaker was that particular evening. And it turns out it was a top literary agent who was doing a tour of the UK, and she was doing a talk, and she was doing a special workshop, a 2-hour workshop, and it was entitled "How to Get Your First Book Published by the First Publisher That You Send It to." And that kind of appealed to me. And we've all heard those stories of, you know, really famous, globally famous authors who've had their books turned down by multiple publishers before anyone took them up. And there's a simple reason why publishers are more likely to turn down your book than take it on. And the simple fact of the matter is, you should never write a book and then take it to a publisher. The first thing you should do is to pitch your publisher with your book idea. So I go along to this meeting, and this lady's doing her presentation, and I came away realizing that I had to tear up my manuscript and start all over again. But what she did is she taught me how to create a submission, a pitch that you send to a publisher. And fundamentally, it is a sales document. And on the last session of this book writing training that I'm doing, I'm going to send you a little ebook that I've written about how to get your book published, the process you need to go through to create a book submission. And fundamentally, it's about saying to a publisher, this is my idea for the book. This is why I think it will sell. This is how it is different or better from other books that are already out there about it. This is why I'm the person to write it. This is how I will help you, the publisher, promote and sell the book. Because the publisher will expect you to actually put in quite a bit of the legwork when it comes to the promotion. Unless you are Lee Child or J.K. Rowling, most of us cannot expect much effort to be put into promoting it. I mean, I got a great kick out of seeing my book when it was eventually published on the shelves of W.H. Smith, but it didn't stay there for very long. You get an initial push, but then it's really up to you to do the rest. So before you go down the publishing route, the traditional publishing route, you've literally got to pitch it, create a submission, and there's a right way to do that. And it is because these people, they get literally dozens and dozens of manuscripts turn up by email in their inbox every single day, and they really can't be bothered to sit there and read through. What they want to see is something that they think, okay, I hear what you're saying, I see why you think this book might sell. In fact, they're actually pleased to hear if you tell them that there are already books on this particular topic. What they're looking for is your spin on it, your take on it, why you're the person to write it as well. So you have to sell them. So that's one route. Now, when my book first came out, it was selling for 12 quid in W.H. Smith's. Amazon wasn't a thing back then, so it was only really bookshops. They were selling it for 12 quid. I got £1 for each copy sold. And I still think to this day, where did the rest of the money go? And I know where it went. It went on copywriters, editors, the cover, distribution, all that. And I got that £1 once a year. So I eventually bought the rights back to that book so that I owned the rights. And the first thing I did was to put it out as an ebook on some specialist websites, just literally a PDF download, and I was selling it for 20 quid a copy because it was slightly niche, quite specialized. And as soon as the first person paid £20 through PayPal or whatever the button was that I was using, I suddenly realized, oh, this is the way to go from now on. Not only did I get 20 quid straight into I get all of the money, less the PayPal fee of about 2 quid. So I said, why get £1 out of the £12 selling when I can get £20 out of the £20 and I get it straight away? It's an absolute no-brainer. That's not to say the traditional publishing route isn't a viable option, and it depends on what sort of book you want to do, what sort of book you're thinking about. But the self-publishing route is I think for most financial advisors, it's so much faster, so much easier, and it allows you to tweak it. One thing I did realize about when I went down the publisher route, once that book's out there, unless the publisher wants you to do a second edition, if there's any typos in it or anything that's wrong or there's an error, you can't change it. Simple as that. They're not going to pulp 10,000 copies that they've already printed up. But with self-publishing, you can tweak and change and add and so on and so forth to your heart's content. And it's super easy. And on one of these training sessions, we'll just have a look at the back end of how Amazon works as well. So for most people, self-publishing is much, much easier as well. That said, one of the downsides, main downside is you've got to do most of the work, even though you can outsource that to a few people as well. And there are still some people who think that if you've not got a traditionally published book, then your book's not quite as good as other people. So there's a perception thing as well. But frankly, as far as I'm concerned, I'd rather get the thing written, get it out there into the world. Yes, get a trickle of income coming in, but I'm using it as a really, really powerful marketing tool. There is also, though, the audio book market as well, which is just growing at the most astonishing rate. And authors are making a lot of money from audiobooks for all the obvious reasons. You know, to read a physical book, you know, you've got to sit down and hold the thing, whether it's on a Kindle or whether it's on paper. You know, you've got to be in the right frame of mind, in the right place. But with an audiobook, you can listen to it in the gym, you can listen to it in the car, in the shower, wherever you want. And that's why audiobooks are so powerful as well. So once you've written a book, there's a variety of different things you can do with it. You've got your paperback version, you've got your Kindle version, you could do a PDF version, you can do an audiobook version. And one of the things I'm working on this book, my marketing book for financial advisors, is it's got, how many chapters has it got in it? It's got about 30 chapters, something like that. And if it's got 30 chapters, that's 30 training courses I could potentially do. That's 30 podcast episodes I could potentially do. So the book is in many ways the starting point for moving things forward. What is a book? Well, it's one of these, traditional book, traditionally printed, whether you go down the publisher or self-published route. But as I kind of alluded to earlier, it does not have to have 300 pages. It could have 10 pages. It could have 20 pages. And that is really good news for people where the idea that writing a book of several hundred pages, that's just going to be too long, too time consuming, when in actual fact, you can actually create something short, which is just as valuable as something that is long at the end of the day. There's also things called low content or no content books. So I've got a book here called LinkedIn Lead Generation for Financial Advisors, half of which is a proven process to get leads on LinkedIn. Does what it says on the tin. The second half of the book has about 100 identical pages. And it is basically a journal slash thing that you fill in every single day. And that was what is typically known as a low content book, because it's either got very little text or nothing at all. Other low content books, coloring books, journals. Journals are no content books. You literally put out 300 or 400 pages, blank pages. And that's known as a no content book. But the fact that you call it a journal or a diary makes it something that gives it value, which people will want to buy. So our ideas of books are often quite blinkered, but there is so much that you can actually do given a little bit of imagination. How long will it take? Well, as I said, Grant Cardone did his in a couple of hours in an afternoon. Another way to do it, you could do a book in 24 hours if you follow one particular model, the interview model, where let's say you decide to interview 12 people on a particular topic. It could be 12 experts, it could be 12 local business people, 12 anybody you like. but based around a particular theme. And you literally interview them. You could do it on Zoom. You could do it face-to-face. You record the interview. You then transcribe those interviews. Plenty of tools to do that. Do a bit of editing, tidy it up. You've got yourself a book. And that it literally takes you as long as it takes to do all the interviews. I've got an interview series I did in 2019 called the Financial Advisor Mastermind, where I interviewed 32 industry experts, and there are about half a dozen financial planners, and there are people like Brett Davidson, Michelle Hoskin, people who are well-known experts in the industry, and I interviewed each of them for about 45 minutes. And one of my projects is to transcribe all of those, and I'll get myself a book probably that thick, or I could do something over 2 or 3 different volumes once that's transcribed. And the transcription, plenty of software will do that, and then I can just send it off to somewhere on Fiverr or Upwork or one of those websites and have someone tidy it up for me. And I've got myself a book, but it all originates from an interview. So it can be as long as or short as you like. I've written a book about scorecard marketing. It's kind of a new way to attract high quality leads. And I wrote that in December. It took me about 20 days to write that in December. So you pays your money, you takes your choice. Depends what the topic is, depends what you're putting together, but it need not take 10 years. It need not take 5 years. It need not take 1 year. It can take 1 day if that's what you want to do, but you need to be super clear about the direction you're going to take. Now, here's an interesting thing which I've discovered about financial advisors, and I'll read this out. Many financial advisors have their own beliefs, ideas, and concepts which they deeply care about, which they often find difficult to articulate. I happen to think that financial planning is one of those concepts. I think financial planning and lifestyle financial planning is one of those concepts and services that thousands of people out there who need the help of a financial planner, they see financial planning on their website, and yet they don't actually know what financial planning means. I think there are still thousands of people out there that think that a financial advisor sells you products. And I happen to think that financial planning is one of those services that you don't really get it until you've experienced it. And I remember when George Kinder came over to the UK and first started talking about life planning as a completely new concept. And he was met by quite a lot of older, more traditional financial planners in the UK saying, no, 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 none of that American stuff. We already do that life planning stuff. No, they don't. They do bits of it, and they do some things in a similar way. But until you've experienced life planning for real, in other words, you have been life planned by a life planning expert, you do not actually get it. And I think this is a huge opportunity for financial advisors, in that writing a book is the most wonderful opportunity to articulate what you know, what you care about, what your proposition is, and where your area of expertise particularly lies. I've got a couple of financial planners right now who are big on equity release. And yet they know that there's huge swathes of the British public who said, oh, no, I don't think we don't touch that equity release stuff. That's a bad thing. Yet experts on equity release know that all the problems that there were in the past around equity release have effectively been solved and answered. And yet it's still a difficult one to sell to a lot of people. So I've got a couple of equity release experts who've said, they realize that by writing a book, they can actually articulate where the real benefits of this actually lie and how it genuinely helps other people in their lives. And I think the really cool thing is that most financial advisors sitting on a mountain of expertise, a mountain of value, a mountain of absolute credibility. Yet for the most part, financial planning is kind of looked at as something that's only ever done between consenting adults either in your office or in their home or wherever. Yet that expertise that you have got can actually be pulled out in a variety of different strands and repackaged into a variety of different products that you can sell or give away. And a book is one of those products. So let's get started. Let's give it a go. And here's a bit of homework. That looks long, but it's not. And really what I'd like you to do is just to jot down a few thoughts based around this. First of all, who are you as a person? What's your story? How did you come to be the person you are? Now, I ask that because I do speaking training, public speaking training, presentation skills training for financial advisors. And one of the first exercises we do is, and I haven't done one of these for a year because of COVID, but when we get everyone in a room, the first thing I ask people to do is tell me your life story in 5 minutes. And people get up and they tell the life story. I was born in Dorking. I went to a school. I then went to university. My parents were accountants, whatever. And it just goes on and it goes on. But at some point during their little 5 minutes, what's really interesting to watch, and this always happens, their eyes light up at one particular moment, something that happened in their life that they're either very proud of, or a problem that they overcame, or something they discovered, or a day when a light bulb turned on. There's always one thing, and it's very easy to spot that one thing. And everybody has got something in their life that they will inevitably focus on. If I forced you to write a book about one thing in your life, however long, however short, you would be able to do that. You'd come up with something. Quite often, it's based around something where you were going down a particular path in your life, you're on a particular road, and then one day you came up against a brick wall. It could have been family tragedy. It could have been a health issue, just something. You failed some exams, and you came up against a brick wall. But sometime later, you found a way to get over that brick wall, and that actually helped to shape the sort of person you are today. So it's worth just scribbling down, who are you? What makes you unique? What's your story? When I encourage financial advisors to put on seminars, they always ask me, what should we talk about? Should we be talking about inheritance tax planning, or should we be talking about retirement planning? Or we had the budget the other week, maybe we could do a seminar about the changes in the budget. Yeah, that's all cool. That's all good. But 99% of the people in the audience, what they actually want to hear you talking about is you. That people by people, they want to get a sense of, who are you? Who are you, the person to be standing up there? Yeah, I'm sure you've got a load of exams, but just tell me a bit more about you. And that is very, very compelling. So that's the first thing. And this only needs just a couple of sentences. Who are you? What makes you unique? What's your story? If I was to write a book, what would I want to accomplish by doing it? Is it to make money? Is it to get a film deal? Is it to get another book deal? Is it to give me something that I could then use to create a podcast or courses, or just something to give away? What would you like to accomplish by doing this? Who are the people you would want to impact? In other words, who would buy this book? If you were to write a book, just off the top of your head, we don't need any detail, who do you think would buy this book? And why do you think they would buy this book? What information are they looking for that they would buy a book about? And then just scribble down, maybe just literally 5 bullet points. What could you actually write a book? Just up to 5. If you can't think of 5, doesn't matter. So if you happen to be an expert on retirement planning for heart surgeons, then that's probably going to be on your list. Yeah. If you happen to be an expert on leadership, or you've got a lot of experience of leading a team, then maybe leadership might be one of your topics. it does not necessarily need to be based around financial planning or financial advice. It could be just something else that you happen to know about. So that's the homework. That need literally only take 10-15 minutes, absolute tops, but that will give us the basis to move forward on the next one. Any questions at this particular point, Lee? Or is it all swirling around? Fair enough. It's all swirling around. So we'll kind of leave it at that for now. Hope you found that interesting. And we'll send you a copy of the video, copy of the slides, all that stuff as well. And we've got the dates for the next one. But I hope that just gets you thinking about where you might want to take this. Okay.